Welcome to the First Light Podcast with excerpts from our Thursday, September 9 radio broadcast. I'm Michael Toscano. So, some things are coming down, others are going back up. It's been that kind of a week so far. Coming down, in fact, it's gone, is the huge statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee that used to dominate part of Richmond, Virginia. Going back up, the heavy fencing around the U.S. Capitol ahead of a rally promised by some of the extremist elements who tried to overturn the 2020 presidential election with the deadly attack January 6th on the Capitol. A couple of governors in the news. In Texas, Governor Abbott saying it's okay that the new anti-abortion law there doesn't have an exception for rape, because he's going to get all the rapists off the streets. And in Florida, Governor DeSantis losing again in court on banning mask mandates in schools. We'll get through all of that and more, including a conversation with an Army veteran of the war in Afghanistan who's trying to get his translator out from under Taliban control. Thursday Morning Money, a movie, sports, and the forecast, all in the morning mix at First Light. It's 7 minutes past the hour. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the Biden administration is preparing to sue Texas over its new law banning most abortions, with the Justice Department possibly filing a lawsuit as soon as today. It's uncharted territory legally. DOJ won't comment publicly on what the grounds any such lawsuit might stand on. The Journal says some analysts suggest the lawsuit might attempt to take away federal funding from the state and try to determine if there are any federal facilities within Texas that could provide abortions. All this, as correspondent Clayton Neville tells us, the governor of Texas is in the spotlight for his comments about rape. Clayton?
Michael, the new Texas law bans abortions once a fetal heartbeat is detected, which can happen as early as 6 weeks into a pregnancy. The law doesn't include exceptions for rape or incest and is being challenged in court, but Texas Governor Greg Abbott defended it when asked why force a rape victim to carry her baby to term.
It doesn't require that at all because obviously it provides at least 6 weeks for a person to be able to get an abortion.
The law bans abortion 6 weeks into a pregnancy, though not 6 weeks after a woman learns she's pregnant. A pregnancy dates back to a woman's last period, so if she missed her next one 4 weeks later, that would only leave 2 weeks to decide, plan, and get an abortion. When speaking about protecting victims of rape, the governor made clear.
Goal number one in the state of Texas is to eliminate rape so that no woman, no person will be a victim of rape.
With Republican state leaders behind him, Abbott announced his plan.
We eliminate all rapists from the streets of Texas by aggressively going out and arresting them and prosecuting them and getting them off the streets.
Critics, though, point to recent surveys by the U.S. Department of Justice that found about 1 in 3 victims reported they were raped or sexually assaulted, and that most rapes go unreported to police. The governor said he'll boost resources for rape victims, but the federal government with a message for Texas women.
This law is a violation of your rights, and we are going to do everything we can to provide assistance as quickly as we can.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the Department of Health and Human Services is a key component.
They are going to look for ways to make sure we are providing access to health care to women in Texas.
The pushback hasn't just been directed at the governor, but the state as a whole. Lawmakers in Portland, Oregon will vote on an emergency resolution next week to ban the city's trade of goods and services from Texas. On Twitter, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick responded by calling Portland a dumpster fire and insisting Texas is thriving. According to Portland city leaders, the city bought more than $34 million in goods and services originating from Texas over the last 5 years. Governor Abbott and Republican lawmakers in Texas, though, not backing down from their promise to protect the unborn. I'm Clayton Neville. Michael?
A statue of General Robert E. Lee that since 1890 had towered over part of Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the breakaway government Lee chose over the United States, was taken down and hauled away yesterday. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, who ordered the 21-feet-tall bronze sculpture removed, called it a new era in the Commonwealth that Lee called home.
It glorifies the lost cause, the Civil War. It needs to come down, and this is, hopefully part of a new day, a new era in Virginia.
Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney also on hand.
It took longer than we thought, but the day is here.
The removal crew cut the statue in half so it could fit under a nearby highway overpass and carted it away, its future undecided. AccuWeather meteorologist Carl Babinski is with us. And Carl, I guess it's time to say hello, Mindy.
Michael, sudden development occurring in the northern Gulf of Mexico led to Tropical Storm Mindy, which got named Wednesday afternoon, and about 4 hours later made landfall on St. Vincent Island in Florida's Panhandle. It had maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, so it's certainly not a strong system, but it has produced some very heavy rain in northern Florida and will continue to do so early today, even southern and eastern parts of Georgia getting in on the act. The storm will become a depression, but it'll pop out over the waters of the Atlantic and could strengthen again. The good news is, though, Friday and Saturday, Mindy will be moving away from the southeast coast. Not so lucky, though, in New Jersey and parts of Pennsylvania, the Northeast, a slow-moving cold front generating pockets of heavy rain again early today, especially in some of those areas which were so hard hit by Ida last week. With saturated soil, obviously it's not going to take much to renew flooding, and that has happened in some cases. So rivers and streams in the Garden State and in eastern Pennsylvania will have problems with flooding the next day or two, and many of the major metro areas all the way up to Boston will be dealing with pockets of heavy rain early today before things dry out. Elsewhere in the country, of course, the ongoing fires in the west continue to cause problems with air quality. Also, heat advisories out for the valleys of central California, especially near Fresno and Bakersfield, where it'll be near 105 today. So, Michael, still some problems with rain in the east, and flooding problems will persist in parts of New Jersey and New York. Have a great day.
Thank you, Carl. A Florida judge has ruled that the state for now cannot enforce a ban on public schools mandating the use of masks to guard against the coronavirus. This will be the case as an appeals court sorts out whether the ban is ultimately legal. Leon County Circuit Judge John C. Cooper said the overwhelming evidence before him in a lawsuit by parents challenging the DeSantis ban is that wearing masks does provide some protection for children in crowded school settings, especially for those under 12 for whom no vaccine yet exists. California is moving ahead with a law that would be another first. Let's bring in Jim Roop from Los Angeles for that. Jim?
Michael, it's called stealthing. As described by California Democrat Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, the bill's author.
It is the non-consensual and intentional removal or tampering with condom during sexual intercourse.
It is often called assault, but never defined in law. Garcia cites a 2017 study from Yale University, which calls stealthing, quote, a grave violation of dignity and anatomy, end quote. Garcia also says, quote, it's disgusting that there are online communities that defend and encourage stealthing and give advice on how to get away with it, removing the condom without the consent of their partner. But there is nothing in law that makes it clear, and this is a crime, end quote. This bill seeks to clear all that up, she says. The bill, if signed into law, won't change the criminal code, but it will change the civil code on sexual battery, and that victims will be able to sue their alleged attacker. Garcia says she hopes other states take up a similar bill.
It gives a clear message that this is not only immoral but illegal, which is key in prevention education.
The bill passed unopposed. Michael.
Stock futures have been heading mildly downward overnight, perhaps signaling further losses later this morning after the Dow and the S&P 500 fell yesterday for the third straight session. Coming up on 18 and a half minutes past the hour on First Light, Robert Workman's here. And, you know, Robert, I guess sometimes it's great to stay late at the ballpark, isn't it?
Michael, plenty of late-game excitement in baseball on Wednesday. The Red Sox shaded the Rays 2-1. This one was scoreless through 7 innings. Nelson Cruz singled in a run to put Tampa Bay on top in the 8th. Hunter Renfroe then belted a 2-run shot in the home half to put Boston ahead. And in the 9th, Renfroe threw out Joey Wendell, trying for a triple to end the game. Marlins nipped the Mets 2-1 in 10 innings. Brian De La Cruz's third hit of the night brought home the winning run. Jason Hayward's 3-run rocket in the 10th gave the Cubs a 4-1 win over the Reds. Giants scored 4 in the 9th to repel the Rockies 7-4. A 2-run single from Lamont Wade Jr., followed by a 2-run double by Evan Longoria. Mariners scored 4 in the 9th to get by the Astros 8-5. J.P. Crawford went deep. Orioles scored 9 times in the 8th to beat the Royals 9-8. So I guess they aren't tanking after all. Sometimes it's good to get to the park early. Fans in San Diego got to see a snowman. The Padres scored 8 times in the second inning and plowed the Angels 8-5. Adam Frazier had 2 hits and 3 RBI in the blizzard. Twins shut out the Indians 3-0 for the second straight night. Rookie Joe Ryan set down the first 19 batters he faced. Ahmed Rosario's single broke up the perfecto, but that was Cleveland's only base runner. Cardinals defeated the Dodgers 5-4. Adam Wainwright pitched into the 9th to pick up his 15th win. Blue Jays brushed off the Yankees 6-3 for their 7th straight win. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit number 41. New York falls behind Boston for the top AL wildcard. Toronto just a game and a half back. A's top the White Sox 5-1. Brewers edged the Phillies 4-3. Eduardo Escobar's solo homer in the sixth broke a 3-3 tie. Nationals knocked off the Braves 4-2. Tigers pawed the Pirates 5-1. Rangers down the Diamondbacks 8-5. Baseball's Hall of Fame inductions were held on Wednesday afternoon in Cooperstown for the class of 2020. Derek Jeter, Larry Walker, Ted Simmons, and the late Marvin Miller. The date was pushed back in hopes that some fans would be allowed to attend, and about 20,000 made the trek to upstate New York. At the U.S. Open, number one Novak Djokovic now just 2 wins away from the calendar Grand Slam. The Joker dropped the first set for the third match in a row, then roared past 6-seed Matteo Berrettini. He'll play 4-seed Alexander Zverev in Friday's semifinals. British 18-year-old Emma Raducanu ousted 13-seed Belinda Bencic in straight sets to become the first qualifier to make the Open semifinals in the pro era. And she's the second unseeded teen to make this year's Final Four after Canada's Leylah Fernandez. Raducanu will face Maria Sakkari of Greece in tonight's second semifinal after Fernandez takes on the 2-seed Aryna Sabalenka. Soccer, the U.S. shook off a forgettable first half, scoring 4 times in the second to handle Honduras 4-1 in World Cup qualifying. And the NFL season kicks off tonight in Tampa, the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers hosting the Cowboys. That's Thursday Sports.
Well, it's already Thursday morning. This week is just zooming right by, and it's 23 minutes after the hour at First Light. And Kevin Carr always helps things move along a lot faster. He's joining us now with a look at a new movie opening in theaters called Queen Pins. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Michael. This is a new comedy, and it's based on a true story. I don't know how close to the true story it is, but it certainly seems like it's feasible. Kristen Bell plays a suburban housewife in Phoenix who is one of those mad couponers who would, we had a lot of that, especially 20 years ago. She clipped coupons and would save money, and she even had a friend who they had a little website that they would make YouTube videos, and she stumbles upon an idea to, well, it ultimately turns into fraud and smuggling, but get these free coupons and then sell them through, online means and basically start this, what turns into a multi-million-dollar process with her and her friend. But of course that, catches the eye of regulators, but it's not something that's really got the FBI involved. It ends up getting the post office, where Vince Vaughn is a postal inspector, and he pairs up with Paul Walter Hauser as basically the security for the company, one of the supermarkets that seems to be getting defrauded. And it tells the story of one of those schemes that gets too big for what they plan it to, and these aren't master criminals, so they kind of fumble around. And that's really where they mine the comedy, because you just basically have a suburban housewife, a couple suburban people who are trying to involve a life of crime, of money laundering and everything like that. It's meant to be whimsical and silly, and it has some very funny moments, and it does have at least a certain basis in truth, especially when you had those coupon schemes.
Absolutely, yeah, and it looks very, very funny. But I understand they talk about coupon high, and I understand that because there was a time when I was younger, and my wife and I were, we were in need of stretching our dollars. And I took it upon myself to do coupon searching. And I would spend a lot of time finding and clipping coupons and arranging it. And my wife would say, you just spent like a couple of hours, doing that. And I would say, yeah, I look at it as a job where I'm making about $35 an hour, because for every hour I spent on coupons, I would get I would save $35 approximately. So I saw that this thing was called Queen Pins, and I thought, oh, this must be about lady bowlers. So, since I have bowling on my mind, how many strikes do we award Queen Pins in theaters?
I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5 strikes. I thought it was good. It was not a gutter ball, that's for sure.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right.
The Supreme Court of the United States blocked the execution of a Texas death row inmate late yesterday, 3 hours past the time he could have been put to death. John Henry Ramirez is under a death sentence for the 2004 killing of a Corpus Christi convenience store worker in a robbery where he got $1.25. Ramirez's lawyer claimed the state was violating his religious freedom by not letting his pastor lay hands on him during lethal injection. Texas prison officials say such direct contact is a security risk and the vocal prayer could be disruptive. Mark Skirka, the lead prosecutor at Ramirez's trial, said the victim, 46-year-old father of 9 Pablo Castro, quote, didn't get to have somebody praying over him as this guy stabbed him 29 times. The justices will hear arguments on this in October or November. This is Thursday at First Light.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I'll bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Thursday morning, it's First Light. Welcome back and good morning. Michael Toscano with you and happy to be in your company. We are also in the company this morning of Army veteran Sam Rogers of Wisconsin. With 3 tours in Afghanistan, he's now working to get a woman and her family left behind during the chaotic evacuation safely out of that country. We'll talk about that and how somebody who spent so much time in Afghanistan feels about the end of the American military mission there and the Taliban takeover. But right now, it's time to welcome in CNBC's Jessica Ettinger for a check on Thursday Morning Money. Morning, Jess.
Good morning, Michael. A third day in the red for Wall Street yesterday. Could this be the pullback some investors have been waiting for? Some are growing cautious about the virus, the economy, and what earnings reports are going to look like. Job openings soared to almost 11 million in July. That's a record high in the U.S. The Labor Department's JOLTS report found the quit rate at 4 million workers for the 4th straight month as people leave jobs for better ones with higher pay. Real estate slowdown? Fewer people applied for mortgages last week, and applications for loans to buy homes were down 18% from the same week a year ago. The average rate on a 30-year fixed home loan is now 3.03%, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. On today's watch list, we find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. The FDA may announce whether vape products from Juul can stay on the market. The NFL season kicks off tonight. Cowboys, Buccaneers. Jessica Ettinger, CNBC.
In Afghanistan, a number of U.S. citizens, we're not really sure how many, remain stuck at an airport in the northern part of the country, along with at least a few hundred Afghans who were left behind in the messy evacuations following the U.S. troop pullout. The State Department says the United States is working with the Taliban to get our people and at-risk Afghans out, blaming paperwork for the delays, including a lack of passports. Watching all this in Waukesha County, Wisconsin, is former Army intelligence officer Sam Rogers, a veteran of 3 tours in Afghanistan and a man who is trying to get a family out from under Taliban control. Sam Rogers joins us now at First Light.
Thanks so much for having me on, Michael.
So, we're really happy to hear from you because, you spent time in Afghanistan. You're trying to get someone out now. You are also watching our country deal with this issue. What is the first thing that you would like to tell our listeners?
Well, yeah, it's been, I guess for me personally, this has just been quite the journey. I spent 2 years and 9 months in Afghanistan, first as an interrogator at the United States Army, and then as a Department of the Army intelligence officer. And then I came home and I put a couple years into trying to get us out of the Afghanistan war as a result of some of my experiences and things over there. And then as this kind of disastrous crisis unfolded, over the past now 3 weeks, it's gone on. I've simultaneously been trying to make sure the mental health care needs of Afghan veterans in my Wisconsin community are being taken care of. Simultaneously, trying to remind people that this getting out of Afghanistan was the correct decision. And then again, at the same point, calling for accountability, not only just for the way the last 3 weeks have unfolded, but really the last 20 years. And then last, as you mentioned, my nights and my wife's nights, she'll let you know, have been filled with trying to coordinate, as a small part of a large network of veterans and government folks off the clock, trying to get our translators, their families, and even some Americans who were left behind in Afghanistan out.
You are part of the organization, the Concerned Veterans for America, and your group is officially calling for an after-action review of how these evacuations have transpired, and also taking a look at the entire effort there, and a look at high-ranking military officers and civilian leaders who the group says routinely misinform the American people about the state of the war in Afghanistan. What is it exactly that we don't know that you do?
Well, to be frank, Michael, I think most of what I know is generally public knowledge. I just think that because this has gone on for so long, and because the impact has been felt by a smaller and smaller shrinking veteran community and veteran family, military family community, that I don't want to say that there has been an apathy to it. But, we saw the Afghanistan papers come out in, I think, 2019. And, I believe General Milley General Milley was quoted saying that everything is going well. When he ran Afghanistan, everything is fine. The Afghan security forces are totally capable of carrying Afghanistan. All these claims were made that people on the ground, including, mid-range officers, were directly contesting. There were outstanding special operations folks training, very high functioning organizations, commando troops, things like that. But by and large, I think you would struggle to find someone who spent time in Afghanistan working with the Afghan security forces who thought that this would last in our absence.
We've discovered that as the approaching deadline for pulling out was coming, and then as the evacuation started, that there was a huge upsurge of veterans seeking help. And there were suicides. We've had a problem with suicide for a while, but it got a little more acute during this phase. What do you tell your fellow veterans who might be feeling bereft that we put ourselves on the line, we did this work, and now we've turned the country back over to the Afghanistan? What do you tell those people?
Right. So I think, one of the things early on that I was calling for, particularly in Wisconsin, was for talking heads, politicians to deliberately separate these conversations instead of squishing them together. The problem is when veterans are seeing this unfold, they're seeing this collapse, they're seeing additional service members lose their lives in the exfiltration of these refugees and American citizens. When these leaders don't stand up and say, this is my fault, I am the reason that this has continued, not you, these veterans start to look inwards and place even more blame on themselves, particularly people who are already suffering things like survivor's guilt. And so I think, one of the things that stood out to me was we had so many Vietnam veterans in Wisconsin reaching out to my organization, just saying, if you have any Afghan veterans who need someone to talk to, please give them my number. We've been through this. We understand, and we're here to listen. And that just meant the world to me.
I know that you've been personally involved in trying to get somebody out of Afghanistan, an American woman and her family. I know that there's some things you probably don't want to put on the air, but what can you tell us about that woman and how that's going?
She's an American woman. She's, worked for the U.S. military for almost 14 years as a translator. She's, she's just the bravest person. She's been leading this group of, women and children and, a number of, a brand new infant who recently underwent surgery. And she was turned away from the airport gates, after trying again and again to get through these mobs trying to escape. And now, she's unable to get out of the country. The borders are shut. Airports are shut down. And unfortunately, the State Department has just not been as helpful as we'd like. These veterans are once again bearing an additional burden of this conflict by trying to get these people out. And, this is not a thing. This is not a process like checking blocks to get your driver's license at the DMV. And it seems the State Department is taking a very bureaucratic approach. And it really defines this last 20 years of the way the government has treated this entire conflict. And its optics and bureaucratic barriers over decisive action.
Secretary of State Blinken says that the U.S. is working with the Taliban now to get some U.S. citizens and some at-risk allies out of the country. But we know that there are some citizens and quite a few Afghans who are stuck at this airport in a northern city of Afghanistan. And the State Department is saying, well, there's, some passengers don't have passports. We have paperwork problems. And I'm thinking, paperwork problems, get the people out of the country. So is it the Taliban? Is it just that they can't tell us what's really happening? Because that just defies imagination.
Right. I agree. It's just, and this is something that our folks on the ground there have experienced. They have either fled their homes in Taliban-controlled areas. Maybe they've had to destroy documents, physical documents, so that they can go through these Taliban checkpoints without being, beaten or potentially killed or detained, right? And so then to say, "Oh, I need you to have this, this stack of paperwork." It's the whole point. It's the whole reason we land so many of these flights in a third-party country for additional vetting in a safe location. And that's the State Department's job. That's the thing it's the only part of this that we can't do as an informal ad hoc network. There's several NGOs who have stood up who are doing this. Many are doing great, just incredible things, but that's the part that we can't do because that's literally the State Department's job, is to negotiate these things.
So the women and her family that you're trying to get out, are they in hiding, or are they part of this group kind of stuck at the airport? Is she safe?
I mean, she's safe-ish. She's safer than they were in Kabul. They managed to flee Kabul, but they've got dwindling resources. It costs money to feed them, to keep, to feed the kids. The kids have gotten ill. We had to coordinate a doctor to get out to them to look after these folks and make sure that, none of these kids were undergoing a medical crisis. Time is the thing that we don't have. And it's just frustrating to see so little public action by the people that really should be doing this.
And obviously don't answer this if it's a security situation for this woman and her family. Are there ways to just get over the border? Do the Taliban have the borders closed off?
There are a lot of countries surrounding Afghanistan who may or may not let people come across their border. Additionally, she's got, a disabled child, another infant who just underwent surgery, doing some sort of treacherous, rat line through the mountains or across the desert is just not possible. I don't think it's through a gate into another country or on an airplane are really her only ways out.
Is there anything that our listeners can do in this situation? I feel helpless talking to you about it. I don't like feeling helpless. What can we do?
Yeah, I've felt helpless probably for the last 2.5 weeks and just trying to piece together groups and things. We're not doing any of this in our organization, but a partner I've been working with is alliedextract.org. They've been just amazing. They secured a doctor. They've been able to get her into a safe place. There's so many amazing organizations like Allied Extract who are working to do this important stuff around the clock. And in Wisconsin, we just had with our foundation, Concerned Veterans for America Foundation, our sister organization, we just did a massive care package drive for the refugees coming to Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, and put together almost $150,000 worth of supplies. So that was just, I think, everyone is doing really their part and more. We just need to see some action from State Department to remedy this stuff.
Sam Rogers served 3 tours in Afghanistan. He now works with Concerned Veterans for America. He's here representing himself. Sam, thanks so much for bringing this to our listeners at First Light.
Thanks so much, Michael, and I look forward to hopefully bringing you guys back some great news when we've got Sarah back home.
Thank you so much. And that's the First Light podcast with excerpts from our radio broadcast of Thursday, September 9, produced by TJ Coutini. Don't forget our full broadcast airing or streamed by radio stations all across America early every weekday morning. And the First Light podcast is always here for you. I'm Michael Toscano. Thanks for listening.